welcome back to Building a Castle with Sticks and Stones. It's Static back, and building a castle from sticks and stones is something the unhoused population knows a lot about. We are talking about homelessness, and there is a lot going on in the media and in the news all over about homelessness. It's so widely misunderstood. I was homeless myself. You can actually find my other YouTube page, American Bum. Yep, American Bum. That's my page. Where you can see where I was homeless, where I'd argue with police, where I was, in the city of Lancaster when they did a sweep. And I mean, it is ugly out there, and the politics surrounding it are just getting worse and uglier by the day. I'm so disappointed in LASA because LASA actually did a lot to help homeless people, but it turns out they were doing more to help themselves. And I live in a city where the mayor is definitely not homeless friendly, but he did just recently besides his comment about purging all the homeless people with fentanyl, which I think was really insensitive to say, because especially for all the families who had homeless family members that died from a fentanyl overdose. My heart goes out to everybody who's lost someone to fentanyl. But the mayor was definitely insensitive, but he did put out a recent order to move more single females off of the street, which I think is good. There's all these cities are implementing different strategies and things that they think will work to address the homeless problem. But why don't we start with lowering the rent? You know what? Rent is so expensive right now. In 2016, I paid $850 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Right now, I'm paying $750 for a single room, an 8x10 room with no closet. Okay. I was homeless. I'm very grateful to not be homeless anymore. And you want to hear how I did it? I was living in an abandoned building, and I was tired of it. I was looking around the abandoned building, trash up to my kneecaps, and sweating. It was in the middle of summer, and if anybody knows how Antelope Valley weather is, it's hot. And I got so sick of being in that. I just looked around at everyone in this abandoned building, and some guys picking feathers out of a pillow, and just bugs everywhere, trash everywhere. And I was like, okay, what can I do about this? This cannot be. I had went through some hard stuff in life, and I, took to I didn't have any choice. I had to take to the streets, and but it took a while. But I finally, got myself together, and I remember when I decided that I didn't want to be homeless anymore, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I looked online to see what the city was doing about homelessness. This was in 2018. So I found on the website that the city of Lancaster had a homeless impact commission through City Hall. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go to that meeting and see what this is about. So sweating and in booty shorts, I went all the way to City Hall, walked there, pretty much ran there because I was going to be late. I'm almost late to everything. But I show up to the meeting, and at the first time I went to the meeting, everybody's in business suits, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt very out of place. I was surprised in a meeting about homelessness in the city, there was no homeless people there. But it's where all the homeless agencies in Lancaster would get together and talk about how they were helping homeless people. Or, to be politically correct, we should say unhoused population. But the first meeting, I just sat and listened. The next time I went to the meeting, I filled out a speaker card, and I got on the podium, scared to death, but I knew it had to be done. I went up to that meeting and said, hey, I'm homeless and I don't want to be, and I don't really know what to do about it, or, and I was talking about, different issues that were on the streets. And I was surprised after the meeting, all the resources came to me. And I mean, that was extreme, but I had to do something because I couldn't stay out there anymore. It's not a lifestyle that anybody wants to live. And it's not cheaper. It's not, there's nothing, pretty about being homeless. There's nothing nice about it. Oh man, it's a cruel world out there. And stores really treat homeless people terribly. I mean, homeless people are treated terribly, regardless of what the news has to say about how, all these great programs for homeless people. No, they're not like that at all. The reality is that, if they want to address homelessness, I think more funding should go into prevention rather than trying to treat the problem once it's already a problem. They should put more effort into preventing the problem. Issues like the foster care system. Oh man, they're terrible. I met so many people on the streets that were kicked out of group homes by LA County foster care. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Or how to anybody that they can't get a job because, for a criminal charge, right? The way they do criminal charges is really way out too. They'll let you out of jail if you plead guilty to a crime instead of fighting it. If you plead guilty, they'll let you out on probation or whatever. But if you want to stay and fight a case, you have to stay in jail. Even though you might win that case, to get out of jail, you'll plead guilty. I did that, and I got stuck with a charge that was ugly on paper, and it made it hard to find a job. So, that shouldn't be a thing either. My gosh, if people want to fight their case, let them fight their case, but don't make them sit in jail while they do it, or, offer to, let them out if they plead guilty to a charge that's going to, either kill their career or prevent them from getting a career or prevent them from getting a job, even if it's, a charge that could have been fought. But they really do that. They really will make you take a guilty charge and label you, then and they'll let you out of jail for that. That is so crazy, because they make it harder for people to get jobs because they're like labeling people as criminals that really aren't. And domestic violence is another cause of homelessness. They talk about drugs and addiction, but drugs and addiction, they can happen while you're homeless. Like some people that have never done drugs didn't do them until they hit the streets. And, for social reasons or, for survival, whatever the case may be. But my opinion about drugs are not the problem. They're the solution to the problem. And when you're homeless on the street, a lot of people turn to drugs because, you got to escape somehow. Man, it is ugly out there. I used to do a homeless newsletter too. I was working with, a nonprofit organization. We put together a homeless newsletter. We were doing that until COVID hit. But, it's so ugly. And, I have to say that I'm actually really grateful that I wasn't homeless when COVID hit. Man, that must have been scary. That must have been really some scary times. There's so much I could say about homelessness and being unhoused because I went through it myself and I saw a lot of other people go through it, and I continue to see people go through it. And I see these agencies, some really do care, and there are people that want to help and step in and say, hey, but these policies they're implementing about all these bans on encampments and whatnot, even if there's nowhere else for them to go, a lot of them don't have family members, or they probably weren't mentally ill before they hit the streets, but being on the streets will make you mentally ill. Okay. It will, PTSD is real. When you've been homeless for a while and everything you have gets stolen from you, you start to believe that everybody's out to get you. I mean, it is rough. It's terrible. One time I went into Winco, and I've never stolen anything from that store ever, or and the freaking manager literally had the security guard grab me by my arm and drag me out the store because he thought I was stealing, and I wasn't. And I couldn't even believe that he got away with that. And then he tried to say that he was calling the police on me, not for stealing, but for trespassing. I'm like, okay, do you think I'm stealing, or what's up with trespassing? Like, I literally was in there to buy a top ramen. It's really, I would like to see more policies on prevention, about keeping families together instead of the foster care system tearing families apart for, at risk. But, they're putting more people at risk in the long term by putting them in foster care. I don't know. I don't understand why they go about it that way. But I met two guys that were homeless. They were kicked out of group homes. They were sleeping under a bush in the rain. One was 18 and one was 19 years old. And that is the reality. They cut ties with families, and the county just thinks they're doing so great. But that's the reason why we have the problems that we're having in society. That's part of it. There's so many different, things that more effort could be gone into to prevent homelessness. Homelessness, I don't believe, is an issue in itself. It's a byproduct of issues. You know what I mean? And people want to address homelessness once it happens. At that point, especially for people that have been on the streets a long time, they don't have a lot of trust in people, or, and you can't blame people that they refuse services, because when you go through all the type of things that you go through on the street, it really does make it difficult to trust, and it really does make you just want to, seclude yourself and isolate and give up on society, and in fact, give up on humans in general. I felt like that for a while. There was a point in time where I wasn't willing to accept help, but it also came a time where I was too, where I was like, okay, I had had enough, and maybe that's what it takes. Some people, you just have to have enough. But, all these encampment sweeps and people that don't have family, or if they are mentally ill, care court, what they have nowadays, to force people into treatment or to force people to take medication. Like, that should not be allowed. I can't believe that law even passed. People, I think what they really should focus on too is like getting teams out there to kind of motivate from the inside, give like the unhoused population like a fighting chance, like let them learn how to, like, teach them how to fight for themselves, because sometimes we lose that when we hit the streets. I wanted to start a homeless trash service for a while. I wanted to start a homeless trash service that would, like, I wanted to call it like box for a box, right? Like, I would bring out like huge cardboard boxes if I could. What my idea would be to bring huge cardboard boxes out to encampments, let them throw all their trash in them, and then call my team when they're done. My team would come out and exchange the box of trash for a box of pizza, box for a box. Just to show that, like, I don't know, like, unfortunately I couldn't follow through with that project, but I think it would have been cool to start a homeless trash service. I think it would be, I couldn't believe that situation that happened in LA County where FEMA, right, the Federal Emergency something or other, right, they donated all these trailers to LA County to address homelessness, and they were going unused. I think they're still unused. They found a bunch of them by Dodger Stadium. They were just going unused because they didn't want to pay to have utilities hooked up to these trailers. And that would be a lot cheaper of a solution than what they're doing now. If you ask me, I would definitely start a homeless trailer park where either people, like, one section could be for people who can bring their own trailers, and then maybe have one section of mobile homes for families. And, I really think that could work. But, there's people, politicians are so closed off. They're so closed-minded and so unwilling to get creative and think outside the box. But that's what it's going to take when you have a problem like homelessness. It's going to take outside the box thinking to address a problem that doesn't have any one cause. So, but they're just so like, oh, well, we have this policy and this policy that, all these reasons why, every excuse why they can't implement more creative strategies. I suggested one time at a meeting at City Hall in Lancaster where I said, hey, why don't you guys try, paying homeless people to pick up the trash or something? There's like different things. And then he went in to say that the mayor told me, he said that, because people could, try to, like, I don't know. He went into something about how, just some bullshit, right? About how people would try to get unemployment. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, dude, you could have homeless people bring one bag of trash. If you gave them $1 for every bag of trash they collected, I'm telling you right now, you would not have a trash problem anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different creative ways to address the trash, to address, I think these harm prevention methods are doing really well. Mental Health of America, good job. You guys are doing good. Valley Oasis, excellent job. I wish I knew some other agencies right now, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think it's great that the city of LA is now got their own homeless department within the city or within the county. I think that's good. That's smart. I think a lot of cities should implement, instead of relying so heavily on nonprofit organizations to solve the problem, cities need to step in and have their own homeless services, like, within their city. I think that's the smart thing to do. I don't know why more places don't do that. Out here in Lancaster, they have now a program where they're implementing like a hybrid police department, right? Where it's like half law enforcement and half code enforcement, basically, is what it comes down to. The new guy in charge of public safety in Lancaster, Roderick. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him face to face, but I'm pretty sure he's heard my name a few times because I've definitely gone to City Hall a few times and spoken up at city council meetings. I've listened to what he has to say, and I don't know, man. The methods that these cities are using, I'm reading all over about what Gavin Newsom has to say about homelessness, what Trump has to say, and I am not hearing anything, no kind of long-term solution. I'm hearing a lot of, okay, well, let's get people a motel for a couple days. What's that going to do? Well, a few days are up, then what? The fact is they have no idea how to address homelessness, obviously, because the problem is getting worse instead of getting better. And pushing people out to the deserts is not the safe way to do it. And homeless deaths, they say that they have leveled off, but still, they say that nearly 7 homeless deaths per day in LA County. That is way too many. That is an insane number. And I myself, the reason why I feel sensitive about the fentanyl topic myself is I have lost friends, homeless friends to fentanyl. And man, it's heartbreaking. So heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking world. But there is still a lot of good out there. And there's good people out there that want to help. And there's good people that want to see a difference and make a difference. I want to make a difference, and I'm limited because I'm one person. But I know that, it takes a community to save a community, and a community is only as good as its leaders. So any cities, all these cities that have these leaders that are just, really selfish people or are not really trying to think outside the box or are just going about things in, a traditional way, it's going to take an untraditional response to this if we're going to really make a difference in homelessness. Shelters, a lot of people don't want to be in shelters, and I don't blame them because shelters are bad too. Like, you get your stuff stolen, you can get beat up, you can get, I've been in shelters before too, and no, I didn't want to be in a shelter. So people will say, oh, well, homeless people are refusing services. That's probably not the case. That's probably not the case. The services that are being offered to them are probably bullshit. They're probably, have, guidelines and or rules and stuff that are just like kind of unreasonable and kind of like, when you're homeless, you're used to kind of being like independent, and when you want to take that independence from someone like that, yeah, you're not going to get the right response. That's what I mean when I say that they're going about things the wrong way. There's, so many different, you have to get creative. Come on, like, let's get creative in solving the homeless problem. You know what I'm saying? And people who are out there, even if they seem dirty or whatever, they've been through a lot. I went through a lot. And, I understand that there are people that are just really hard-headed and have been through enough and that don't want anything to do with society, and they are just a menace. And you know what? That's unfortunate. But what can we do? Prevention is the biggest key here, people. But I'm just one person. In my opinion, it is what it is, right? I mean, opinions are like assholes, right? Everybody's got them. But I'm speaking from experience and I'm speaking from my heart. But I know that, people who are out there that are homeless living out there don't have to. There are people that want to help, and it does suck that more people are not more open to the solutions that are being brought to them. But, there's got to be a give and take on both sides, from the homeless population, from the unhoused population, it takes a little cooperation. And from the other side, it takes more understanding. And, I was actually in a documentary about homelessness from Vice News. And shout out to Vice News, Homeless in the Desert. Yep, I'm in that documentary. You guys can check it out on the Vice News YouTube page and online. But, I definitely want to be a part of the solution. But, it really is a complicated problem that's going to take some serious, creative thinking and outside the box solutions and, to get results that are going to last. Wages are another issue. The cost of housing right now, yeah, that's another issue. I could go on and on about this topic, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. And feel free to comment. Let me know. Over and out.